everybody, it's Randy with Carchaeology, and today's story is about a vehicle that I dug up a number of years ago now. It was kind of a random Tuesday, if I remember correctly, and more than anything, I remember that I was in a really crappy mood. I don't know what was going on, but I was feeling really bummed out, really just kind of blah when the phone rang, and it was a call from a good friend of mine up in Los Angeles that had come across a car. Now, he's a fellow car hunter as well. He focuses primarily on German stuff, but he was offered this car, and he decided to pass on it. It was a 1966 Ford. Now, I'm not a totally, wide-eyed, crazy collector of old Fords, but anybody that's watched my channel here knows that if there's an interesting story behind a car, you can count me in regardless of what badge is on the hood. So the story behind this was that it belonged to a little old lady in Pasadena. Seriously, a little old lady in Pasadena. Everybody's heard the story, but this one's true. And she passed away and left in her garage a 1966 Ford LTD that she had bought new. And it had to be out of the property that day. So if I wanted this car and wanted this opportunity, I needed to haul ass and make it happen. So I was down in town at the time. I ended up blasting home real quick, loaded up the truck and trailer, and then aimed my way up to Pasadena. I really didn't know what to expect. I could have been a biggest pile of junk ever. He really didn't know much about the car. He said it looked pretty complete, but I had to act fast, and more than anything, it gave me something to do to snap me out of my funk for the day. And so off I went. And when I got there, I was blown away with what lay before me. Now follow along with this little photo slideshow here, and I'll commentate along with it and tell you the rest of the story of the little old lady from Pasadena's Ford LTD.
The garage was around the back alley of this home in Pasadena, and my friend opened up the door so we could see what was inside. Once I went in there, I was pretty blown away. Here sat an all-original 1966 Ford, still with plastic on the seats. This car was extremely well preserved, even had the driver's hat sitting in the front seat. It had been put up on jacks in the garage, which kept some pressure off the tires, but that big spot underneath there had me concerned. Perhaps there was some sort of transmission leak. Once we got the door open and were able to get in there, I could assess it a little bit better through the light through the back as well as the door in the front. Super dusty, lots of cobwebs. Tires were flat when we laid it down. Engine compartment looked super complete. That was the factory 390. We aired up the tires. They seemed to hold air nicely all the way around, which was quite a treat. And once we got it up on its wheels and off the jack stands, it was time to pull it out. Now, the wheels were a little stiff. It took a little bit of pushing, but we got it to emerge out here in the sun. And it had been in this garage since, I think it was around 1980 or so when it was parked in there. We did use my friend's VW truck to kind of pull it out of the yard and also pull it up onto the trailer. But once I got it loaded up on the trailer, I started my drive on back to the lab. Reasonably heavy car behind my old F-150 that was almost the same color, but once we battled through LA traffic, I made it back into the Temecula area under the fall of night. Got a little bit of gas, started walking around it, checking it out, went and bought a new battery, stuck it in there. Lights seemed to work on the car, which was fantastic. Kind of neat to see that tail light glow. Brought it over to the local coin-op car wash and gave it a quick blast so I could see what was underneath there. Unwrapping a car like this with its layers of dust is always a treat. And absolutely, I was thrilled with the results. Of course, dripping wet, they all look great. But man, what a car. This thing had survived the test of time extremely well. And I absolutely couldn't wait to get home with it. start the detailing, see if I could get it fired up. But all of that was going to have to wait for another day. Geeked out a little bit on all the details, then aimed on back to the lab and went and crashed for the night. It was pretty dark by the time I made it home, but I was super happy, and my doldrums from earlier in the day were long, long gone. Now, the next morning, I got up and went out and started the cleaning process. I hit the fender with a little bit of polish and my buffer. Absolutely blown away with the shine on this. The chrome is going to shine up amazing. Opened up the trunk, found it packed full of all sorts of cool little bits of history for this car. Some emergency flares. There were some penny loafers complete with a penny in them. I didn't look to see what year the penny were from. There were some curb feelers that were never installed. Matchbook from the Bullocks Wilshire. Can't get much more LA than that. California disabled placard. Remember, little old lady. And maps from all around the Southern California area. Some good little, here's the hat and glasses that the owner left in the car. Woodsy Owl, give a hoot, don't pollute trash bag. There were even some great Pasadena specific items, Rose Bowl programs and tour, an evening with Lawrence Welk. I mean, you can't get any more old lady than this. And with the AAA goodies and all of that in there, I mean, what an amazing discovery. Now, I did get the car up and running, and I drove it quite a bit. It was a really delightful driver, fun to be on the road. I had an absolute blast with that car. It turned over 37,000 miles while I had it. And one day I had somebody step up that made an offer I couldn't pass up. I really didn't plan on selling it, but when the offer comes, sometimes you just gotta take it.
Now, my one regret with that particular car is that it never got an opportunity to really take a nice full set of detailed photos of it once it was totally cleaned up. All I have are the ones that I showed here, which were focused mostly on the retrieval of it when I first discovered the car. But I did keep it for a while. I did have an absolute blast for it and really kind of fell in love with the mid-60s era Ford. And every time I see a car that's similar to this, I kind of get pangs of regret that I let this one go. It ended up going overseas to a buyer in Sweden. And again, I didn't advertise it or anything. I had a buyer here looking at another car, and he saw it, and he took some photos, and he asked me what I would take for it, and I just kind of threw out a number, and he said yes. And the moment I did that, I kind of regretted that thought, but the timing was decent. As is usual, I could use the money for something else, and it went off to a new home. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed the little photo trip through the little old lady in Pasadena's Ford LTD. It was a really super fun car and one of my favorite digs, especially in the way that it landed in my lap on a day that I desperately needed cheering up. Thanks so much for watching. Please keep on digging them up and driving them. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get this to grow as fast as we can so that I can keep on bringing you some neat content of cars that I've found. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.